Welcome to the Spiritual Principles Made Practical podcast. I'm your host, Scott Friedman, and today I'm going to record what I think is going to be a very exciting episode, which is how to create the life we dream of. And to create a context, the life we dream of, some of the characteristics that we have in common, and there's plenty that we don't, but the ones that we have in common are that we dream a life of increasing joy and love and energy and insight and fulfillment and self-realization. And those characteristics are part of our dream life, our intended path, if you will. And that's how we know that we're on our path if we're continuing to get insights and inspiration and feeling, more and more fulfilled and enjoy and have this sense of well-being that we're doing the right thing with our life. And that's how we know that we're on our path. And that's kind of the short version is that we all have thoughts, and that attached to every thought is an emotion. And if the emotion is one of those that we describe, the sense of well-being, sense of peace, sense of exhilaration, sense of love, sense of compassion, any of the what I call the divine qualities that we'd like to have more of in our life, then acting on that thought will create more of that emotion in our life. And that's how we know that we're walking our path and doing our thing, the way that it's intended to. There are a lot more details, of how all this works, but that's the main overview from a functional standpoint. For me, I really wanted to understand more about the whole process of creation. So I'm working on a book called Creation, the How and the Why, and it gets into, uh, you know, how we create, why we create, what we create, and so on and so on. But just know that uh, for example, me, as I follow my inspiration, uh, it brings up stuff, right, that uh, is not always pleasant, right? So sometimes I have the thought that, you know, your dream, what you're inspired to do is a fool's errand and you're never going to accomplish it and you're just not being realistic and you should give up on that. Well, I got to tell you, I think that most people have had that thought, right? I'm sure that, I think Henry Ford went bankrupt 7 times, or I don't know how many times, but a bunch, right? And I'm sure he must have had that thought that, this isn't working and, I ought to just quit and give up and do something else. But he didn't, right? And so just acknowledge the thought that, part of you thinks, yeah, I'm never going to do this. That's beyond me. I don't have the capacity for that. Acknowledge that thought and say, you know what? I feel a determination to keep going and I'm going to find a solution or die trying. And that's kind of where I am with, my life purpose and what I'm doing in terms of my participation in the world. And it's exciting because I'm making progress, and as I make progress, I bring up more of the objections within me that have kept me from making more progress faster, sooner, easier. And I sap the energy out of those objections by acknowledging their existence and refusing to act on them. So when I get that objective of like, well, you may have won this battle, but you're not going to win the war. Give up and save yourself the heartache. I go like, yeah, I've heard it all before, and yeah, you can be there and I love you and I know you're trying to, spare me the pain of disappointment and suffering, but the suffering that I would experience by giving up is way greater than whatever suffering I'm going to experience by persevering. So persevering I am, and I'm going to continue to use the tools that have, got me this far. One of which is that acceptance is healing. And so if I accept the existence of these negative defeatist thoughts, that it will heal them as long as I accept their existence but choose not to act on them. So that's what I'm doing. So anyway, that's kind of, that's kind of the short story in creating is that we all have we all are creating all the time, and we're creating what our thoughts are automatically. We don't have to try to do it. It's just totally natural, happens on its own, and that the vast majority of our energy is tied up in conflict, where, part of it says, this is my dream. This is what excites me. This is what animates me. This is what I want to do. I want to feel like this all the time, bursting with energy in the flow, excited, and just like, yes. And the part of me that says, nah, it's not going to happen. It's not realistic, and it's like, okay, so that's all part of the mix, right? So, but understand that those things that excite us and animate us, we have the capacity to accomplish, to create that in our life, right? So for me, I mean, I have the idea that I want to advance win-win thinking, so it's the dominant thinking in the world. Not the only thinking, just the dominant thinking, right? We want to have the other thinking around for contrast and growth and all kind of other reasons, but I want the dominant thinking, and it's like, oh well, you're not going to be able to do that, and I get all this like negative energy and stuff. And so what do? I accept that's there, but I say, I'm going to keep trying anyway. And then boom, all of a sudden I get, you know what? Example is the most powerful form of leadership. I could share win-win examples, and that would inspire people. And I could offer other people the opportunity and challenge them to share their win-win examples, because examples is the most powerful form of leadership, and it would inspire people, and it would move the world towards having win-win thinking, the dominant thinking in the world. And it was like, wow, that opportunity was there all the time, but I didn't see it until now. And that's kind of what happens with persistence, right? Is when I acknowledged that negative thought that was trying to get me to give up, and I said, yeah, I hear you, I love you, and I know you're trying to protect me, and I'm going to keep persisting, then boom, it opened the door to recognize a step forward that was always there, but now I can recognize it and act on it. So I'll tell you a short story. I'll make it short, about a win-win situation that I was involved with. I had a friend of mine who wanted to buy a house, and she didn't have the down payment, and she couldn't afford really high monthly payments. So what I did was I lent her the down payment so she could make a 20% down payment and not have to pay mortgage insurance and get a good rate, because they charge you more if you borrow a higher percentage of the value of the home. And I made an agreement with her, that I would get a certain return on my money, but she couldn't afford to make payments now. But I said, no, that's okay. I mean, everything can accrue and compound. That's fine. And then, when you go to sell, if there's not enough money to pay me back, then that's okay. That's on me. I'll take that risk of not getting the full return that we agreed to. And so, make a long story short, she ends up selling the house, and for like a lot, like twice what she paid for it. And I got paid back, the full agreed upon amount, with, as the our agreement was. And in addition to that, she still had 25% of the sales price of the house as after-tax cash. So she invested no money up front in the house, paid her mortgage, every month on time, property taxes, insurance, all that good stuff. But when she went to sell it, there was enough increase in equity that it uh, provided the funds to pay me back the agreed upon amount. And still, she had 25%, or actually more than 25% of the sales price of the home as after-tax cash. So, I mean, everybody came out a winner. So that was a gigantic win-win situation that I created. And yeah, there was some belief, right? Because I mean, who knew what the market was going to do, right? And whether or not it was going to make that available or not, and who knew how long she was going to stay there, and who knew if she was going to continue to make the payments or not. So I mean, there was a potential risk of total loss for me, but I believed in it. I believed in her. I believed in the situation. I felt good about it. I was confident in taking the risk because I felt that based upon my faith and trust in her, that it was a good bet. And I was right. And so it took believing in myself, believing in her, and it all worked out to where everybody was hugely better off. So, that's an example of a win-win story, and there are others, but I'm hoping that it will inspire you to contact me and where we can interview you in a podcast about how you created a win-win situation in your life that really worked out for you. So, um, if that's the case, email me at scottfriedman40 at gmail.com, SCOTTFRIEDMAN 40 at gmail.com, that email address that's behind me on the screen. And we'll set it up. But the point is this. The point is that if we persist, we'll find additional steps that we can take to realize our greatest inspiration, and that is our life path, and that will enhance the belief and the realization of achieving our most treasured goals. And I hope my example is helping, because for me, what it did was it uh, gave me more faith in my own judgment. It gave me more faith in my ability to identify and implement win-win solutions. It gave me more faith in trusting my sensitivity in who I should trust and when I should trust them. I mean, I lent somebody, $50,000 on a handshake one time. And fella paid me back 100% as agreed, I mean, and it was just fine. But I trusted myself, I trusted him, and turns out my trust was warranted. So it's like, I'm able to strengthen my trust in other people and my sensitivity about whether or not that trust is warranted. And I would say that with very few exceptions, my trust has been warranted, and in those few cases that it hasn't killed me. So, I would rather have 99% of the people that I trust come through for me and less than 1% not come through for me than not trust anybody, right? Because that's just a losing proposition. You can't do anything without trust and faith, and that's a reflection of the trust and faith I have in myself. And so all of that got strengthened by that win-win solution, and it gave me more confidence in my own beliefs about my own ability and and my ability to achieve my dreams, no matter how fantastic and unrealistic they may seem. And I have to tell you, I mean, with every step forward, is I become increasingly confident in my ability to make win-win thinking the dominant thinking in the world. I'm finding more and more opportunities to advance it. And even if I die before I complete it, it's like each step forward is exhilarating and it's wonderful. And so that's kind of, what I want to be creating in my life, and then, with that value, I mean, there should be, plenty of money coming in and all the other stuff, right? That goes along with the quote unquote successful life, but it's uh, the only value the money has is the experience of joy and self-confidence and belief in ourself, and to the extent that it supports all of that, right? So I couldn't have enacted that win-win situation that I told you about if I didn't have the money to loan her, right? So I used that money to create a win-win situation that uplifted me and enriched my life and enriched her life and enriched your life and enriched everybody's life, right? And that was fantastic, right? So it's like, so money was a great thing, and that's the proper use of money. It was used to create something that uplifted everybody. And in the end, I ended up with, more money than I started. Right. So it's like that's the way to work with money. Money as an end of itself is no good. But if I want money to buy the house of my wife's dreams, or if I want money to finance her movie, or if I want money to be able to offer anti recidivism reduction programs to prisons and give the administrators of the prison a bonus that incentivize them to, uh, make that course work so that everybody ends up being better off with, less crime, less incarceration. Even the people that run the prisons are better off and they have more money and can be more proud of what they've done. And it's like, yeah, I want the money to kickstart that, right? So that's like a great use of money. And so I need $100 million, right, to do some of those things. I want to do an ad campaign that publicize the results of studies that show that people that do yoga and meditation have 40% less medical bills and are dramatically healthier than people that don't. And this is America, you do whatever you want, but I want to be able to publicize that fact, right? And to have people come and share their win-win stories, right? Of how engaging that, improved and changed their life. I mean, not only did they not have the cost of trying to mitigate the symptoms of a disease, but they healed the disease, they healed the cause of the disease, and it's gone, and their life is like way much better, right? And so, if I have money, I'm gonna buy TV spots, around the world, right? To publicize that. So I need a lot of money because some of these things that I do are facilitated by having a lot of money. But I don't want the money for the money's sake. But the proper use of money is to use it to uplift everybody, right? And that's why I want hundreds of millions and billions of dollars because I'm going to use that to uplift the entire world. I mean, if I have enough money, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So anyway, if you'd like to contribute and be part of that, if you've got an extra $1 billion laying around you don't need, and, and you'd like to fund some of that stuff, let me know. I will take your call. I, I will respond to your email. I promise. But there are so many philanthropists that I've got to believe are frustrated that they're not having a greater impact with their philanthropy, and it's because the thoughts that need to be changed in order for the benefits that they want to appear need to be articulated and stuff. Things like, I mean, the truth has a power all of its own. And if we publicize the fact that uh, the only power that satisfies is power over ourselves, and no amount of being a bully or being an autocrat will satisfy that need for power. If Hitler had taken over the entire world, it wouldn't have satisfied his need for power. He still would have been a crazy, miserable drug addict because he didn't have power over himself. So, so you know what? If we publish that truth, right? Because that's truth, and at the core of it, the truth has a power, and it will make itself known. And so, if we publicize that truth, more and more bullies and autocrats will investigate for themselves whether or not that's true, and will give it up because the only power that satisfies is power over ourselves. And when we have power over ourselves, we have such joy, such magnificence, such success in relationships and business in every part of our life that's important to us that we become an inspiring example that other people want to follow. And in the end, we have much greater impact on people than if we had tried to force them to do what we wanted them to do, right? Much better to be an inspiring example that say, you know what, if that guy did it, I can do it too. And it's like, yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want to inspire. And so part of what I'm all about, and I keep coming back to it because it's what animates me. And who doesn't want to be animated? I mean, come on, right? And so it's like, do what animates you. And if giving me $1 billion is that, then do it. And if it's not, don't do it. If it's calling to share your win-win solution, do it. If it's having nothing to do with me and following other people, do that. Whatever uplifts you, do that because you'll be doing me, yourself, and the rest of the world a tremendous service. And that's how we create our ideal life, right? So measure the creation of our ideal life by the degree of upliftment, peace, sense of well-being, joy, love that we have. And money in and of itself isn't going to bring you that stuff. Howard Hughes in his day was the richest man in the world. And he was miserable. He was paranoid. He was just horribly miserable because he wasn't using his money as a tool to uplift himself and others. The money didn't cause him that grief. The failure to use that money in a way that uplifted himself and others caused that grief. And if I recall correctly, Rockefeller's health, the original oil baron, Mr. Standard Oil, was failing health. And then he started to engage in philanthropy. And if I have my facts straight, as he did that, his health improved. So it was like, okay, there's a great example, So we've got examples of using money to uplift ourselves and others, an example of not not doing that with the resources. So you don't necessarily, depending on your circumstance, you may or may not need, billions and trillions of dollars to support the experience of joy and love and upliftment in your life, or you may. But it doesn't matter either way. The key is that we have all of the resources available to us to create the ideal life we want. So when we talk about creation, it's not just, I want to create a horse, or I want to create a house, or I want to create a following, or I want to create this. It's that I want to do what's uplifting, and what I feel uplifting for me is, and it might be all of those things that I mentioned, but the focus is that we want those things not in an end in themselves, only because they're part of uplifting inspiration. That's the key. That's the key difference, right? And when we're focusing on doing what lifts us up, then then we have the whole ball of wax, right? If we're affected, then we have everything we need, because what we're going to use all of our resources for is to uplift ourselves and others, and that's our life path. That is self-realization. That's the whole ball of wax. There isn't anything of value other than that. So anyway, create by doing the action that has upliftment tied to it. And if you do that, you'll be using your power of creation to its best advantage. And if it's really uplifting for you to give me trillions of dollars so that I can do all the stuff I talked about, why, please don't hesitate. I'm here. All right. You can contact me for coaching, thought coaching, because we create with our mind, right? And all the other stuff that I talked about by emailing me at scottfriedman40@gmail.com. It's up there on the screen, SCOTTFRIEDMAN40@gmail.com. My books are available on Amazon. You can find links to them on my website, www.thoughtcoachingbyscott.com. And understand that you have absolutely 100% certainty that you have the ability to create your ideal life with maximum upliftment, maximum whatever it is you want. If you want contrast of highs and lows, you can have that. If you want a smooth, easy, stress-free, life, just kicking back on the beach, you can do whatever it is that you choose and that lifts your spirits and creates your ideal life. You have the capacity to do that. So I hope I've inspired you to follow through with that. All right, be well.